The US does have a very large prison population, not because too many innocent people are incarcerated, but because too many people commit serious, usually violent crimes.
No. Over half of all prison inmates in the U.S. are there for non-violent, victimless, so-called crimes. If it starts out with an outright lie, it's probably a PragerU video.
That's why most people are imprisoned in America. Period. Full stop.
I'm just gonna take this opportunity to link to Bastiat's The Law, so you can tell what the law is really supposed to be and how the vast majority of our so-called laws shouldn't be on the books.
Let's start with those convicted of drug offenses.
None of them should be in prison.
4 times that number are behind bars for one of the following serious crimes: murder, 14%, rape or sexual assault, 13%, robbery, 13%, aggravated or simple assault, 11%, and burglary, 9%. In short, violent criminals make up the clear majority of the state prison population.
Always keep in mind that 95% of these convictions are made based on plea deals, but more on that later. He's failing to mention that most of these violent crimes wouldn't have happened if it weren't for insane crimes like the war on drugs. If people could buy and sell drugs legally, then there'd be no turf wars or criminal underworld or anything else that results from it. Tens of thousands of murders every year are committed just by the Mexican drug cartels. Not to mention the fact that most armed robberies are about getting money to buy drugs. This is like saying Al Capone was simply a murderer without even mentioning prohibition.
What's more, drug offenders who do end up in prison don't actually serve very much time.
Murderers are sentenced to an average 12.5 years in prison and end up serving half that. But unlike violent crimes, drug crimes have mandatory minimums that can be 20 years or more if the drug they possess happens to be over a certain amount, which is all that's necessary for intent to distribute. And if they happen to be exercising their Second Amendment rights at the time, that can mean an extra 10 years, mandatory, with no possibility of parole. Now, here's what this tool says when he actually does cover plea bargains.
Most prosecutions never go to court. Instead, a deal is made between the defendant's attorney and the prosecutor to avoid going to trial. These negotiations often involve the offender agreeing to plead guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence or dropping or downgrading the most serious charges,
which tend to be bogus, stuck on solely to bully him into taking a deal. And understand that plea deals are not subject to appeal or review and aren't even questioned in court. Prosecutors stick on all sorts of extra charges, most of which shouldn't even be on the books, threatening to make the suspect look like some kind of drug kingpin or something, bullying them into taking a plea deal because they don't think they can possibly win against that. Also, most poor defendants are stuck with public defenders, the best of which are overworked and the worst of which are complicit in the system. Their approach seems to be to convince their so-called clients to take a plea deal as quickly as possible so they can get to the next one on the assembly line. Anyone who considers a plea deal to be proof of guilt is woefully naive about how the system works.
As a result, a prisoner's conviction record often understates the crime that landed him behind bars in the first place.
No, moron, because chances are a huge percentage of these would have been thrown out or resulted in acquittal. We know this because of the ones that have managed to get a decent attorney and actually go to trial. Almost immediately, the prosecutor drops the bulk of the crimes anyway, because he knows he can't get a conviction on them.
This assumes, of course, that the convicted criminal does any time at all. Studies done by the Justice Department show that only about 40% of felony convictions lead to a prison sentence.
That's because most so-called felonies are BS little charges like having a certain amount of a plant. Yes, in most states, mere possession of drugs for personal use is a felony. So they're sentenced to community service or probation or whatever when they shouldn't have been convicted or even arrested at all.
If we cut prison rolls by 20, 40, or 50%, it won't be politicians and media celebrities living in gated communities who will pay the price. It will be the law-abiding citizens in underserved neighborhoods struggling to get ahead who will pay.
You mean the very neighborhoods ravaged by your wonderful war on drugs? Gee, what are the chances? It's almost like you're admitting that you're lying. Hey, thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe and keep these videos coming by donating, becoming a subscriber and getting special benefits, or even for free with airtime. And check out all the great content here, like this video selected just for you.